Greetings, Vermont. Jill Martin Diaz here of Vermont Asylum Assistance Project. I hope you're hanging in there. I am a supervising attorney and the project director at our new legal services and technical assistance organization, Vermont Asylum Assistance Project, or VAAP. I use they, them pronouns. Today is April 28th, 2025, and this is a top five quick update about what's going on in immigration law and practice here in Vermont. The theme for today is a mix of substantive updates, a reminder to look back at some of the materials we've already put out earlier this month, and a reminder to educate yourselves using our website and our social media. We recommend that you orient yourself to our learning library and subscribe to our newsletters so that you're the first to hear about updates as they become available. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but also we're working hard to curate reliable information. So please do avail yourselves of that, especially if you're waiting to hear back from us on a communication. It's very likely you'll be able to answer your own question there sooner than we can reply. What I'm about to share, of course, is not individual legal advice, but general information about what we're seeing. A general reminder for the top five today that policy cannot supersede law. And when the Trump administration attempts to use policy to supersede law, then attorneys need to file suit in the court because the courts are there to referee, to decide between Congress and the president when either has exceeded their power, because we have a balance of power, a separation of power in our government, and the court is the referee. So when you're hearing about all of these heinous policies that are coming down, they're designed to sensationalize the media, they're designed to scare us, they're designed to prompt our preemptive compliance. And every new announcement that comes out of the administration, remember that most of those policy enactments exceed the president's authority, and the courts are going to say so, as they have already been doing in the first 100 days. We just need, society needs to kind of regulate ourselves, find a way to tolerate the discomfort of waiting for the courts to catch up so that they can weigh in and clarify that, yes, that policy was illegal. It exceeds the president's power. The president can't override congressionally made law and needs to come back into compliance. And a reminder from litigation over the last few months, when the courts are telling the Trump administration to stop it, a lot of the time the Trump administration is listening. And if they're not, we're then going ahead and filing additional litigation to get the court to command the executive to get into compliance with the court order. We continue to be a system of government, of checks and balances and rule of law, and that hasn't changed. So please do your best. I know that there were more policy announcements over the weekend. There's going to be all kinds of wild policies that are facially illegal that are going to be written, published and pushed out to scare us all into preemptive compliance. But what we need to do is hold it loosely. Stay tuned for substantive updates from trusted legal experts. Do not rely on mainstream media. Their job is to report on factually what is happening. A policy was passed, not on the legality of whether that policy will hold. Okay, that's where your trusted legal experts come in. And just try and take care of your mental health while we wait patiently for courts to weigh in. So this extends to parole. I know that there's ongoing parole litigation, regardless of what type of humanitarian parole. Parole, again, is permission to enter. And if you're not sure what it is, I would recommend you go back and rewatch some of the videos from earlier this month that we've put out. There was a parole revocation. It's being litigated in courts. There's back and forth. I think there'll continue to be back and forth about whether or not parole is an immigration benefit arising in law or policy such that the president can terminate it at will. And, whatever the outcome of that litigation, parolees always can and should pursue other pathways to status if that is their intention and those are available to them. The parole is permission to enter. It is not a pathway to permanency. And if a person has a fear of returning to their country of origin, they can and should apply for asylum now. And there are resources on our learning library to help you do that. We are also trying to mobilize some volunteer attorney support to set up some initial asylum filing clinics for parolees who have not yet had the chance to apply. So follow us on our newsletter and our socials to learn more. Likewise, there's litigation and now policy changes happening around visa revocations. There's student visas being revoked, researcher visas being revoked. Those are non-immigrant statuses that are do not enjoy the same level of due process protections under the immigration law as permanent pathways to status. And there is a pattern and practice in the administration of revoking people's student visas to try and silence them for legally, constitutionally protected speech activities. And there was some litigation threatened. The administration has now walked back their mass revocation of student visas. Again, this is another area where we're going to see the president try to change things through policy, the courts coming in saying, hey, you can't do that. That's rooted in law. And they're going to be fighting, and there might be some play-by-play changes that the media are really focused on and talking a lot about. And it's important for us all to try and tune some of it out, because the important thing for communities to know is that if you have a student visa being revoked, you can reach out to us and we can contact you, put you in contact with the intake person at the ACLU who's leading litigation if you want to participate in that litigation as a plaintiff. And if you have other bases to regularize your status, you are afraid of returning to your country of origin, you are, whatever your situation might be. If you want to be screened for other types of status, there are lots of online tools available to help you do so. And we link to those on our learning library. And you don't wait, right? A visa revocation or parole termination does nothing to harm your other options under immigration law. The immigration law lets you put as many irons in the fire as you have available to you based on your facts. So just focus on, if you want to be connected in plaintiff side litigation, you want to join the class of people suing the government to challenge the illegality of student visa terminations, you can reach out to us and we can connect you with ACLU who are leading that effort. And if you want to apply for other types of status, you can orient yourselves to your options on our learning website. Zooming in a little bit to what's going on in Vermont, there's a really amazing groundswell interest, campaign building, increasing awareness around longstanding injustices in the immigration detention and enforcement system here in Vermont, which is incredible. Continue to support your member-led organizations like Migrant Justice. Continue to show up and speak out, particularly if you have citizenship and you don't risk having immigration consequences for exercising your speech. Please do. Know that behind the scenes, Vermont legal workers and service providers, we're all kind of figuring out who is best placed to take on what piece of the work so that all the work continues to happen, and we can reduce some duplication and some inefficiencies and help give Vermonters clarity about who to call for what and when and how we can respond. So just thank you for your patience. We were under-resourced by the state and the system at large to meet this moment. We're making progress. It looks like the Office of New Americans bill S56 is going to make it to the House floor for a vote. And that will give us a point of contact in the state government with the express authority to bring all the stakeholders together to help us organize ourselves and share information and hopefully reduce the duplication of emergency calls that happen when things go awry. So just thank you for your patience and stay tuned and know that we're going to be updating you as soon as we can. We do need your help in this moment, because even once we organize ourselves, what we're able to help with as lawyers are legal interventions, right? The law provides tools for lawyers like us to get involved in a case when there is adverse legal action happening. And that means like someone has become detained. Someone is, they're in this position now where they need to apply for relief from deportation or request a custody determination by an immigration judge to see if ICE is allowed to keep detaining them. Those are adverse legal actions where a lawyer's tools can be particularly impactful. And our resources are so limited that we're really at VAAP, we're going to focus our interventions there. I have about 10 years experience working in removal defense, including in detained settings. And I think that since we have that unique background and skill set and we have access to national resources and technical assistance, that's where we want to focus. So when we have to say no, unfortunately, to other types of legal work, know that we're working with our partners to make sure that other community partners are going to focus their attention in the stuff that we're saying no to, so that there aren't any key pieces of work that just fall through the cracks. We're going to try and collaborate to meet the need as best we can. But those are just legal interventions. The majority of communications that we're receiving right now are not regarding legal interventions. They're more about a feeling of felt emergency that is coming from a sense of deliberate panic and fear that the government is trying to stoke with all of its tactics so that we can't work effectively, so that we burn out and stop fighting for our rights, and so that immigrants self-deport. And the best way we can protect against those three things is to start to habituate ourselves to self-soothing using online resources or other types of services, mental health services, community support services, mutual aid, to tolerate the discomfort of all of this uncertainty. We will be living in this reality of fear mongering and deliberate kind of deliberate disinformation and sensationalizing. We'll be living with this for 4 years, I think. And we want to make sure that we lawyers are focused on the legal interventions so that the other types of service providers can focus on their specialized interventions. And it takes everyone working together to survive a moment like this. Community care is key. So we share and we share the pain and discomfort and the overwhelm and the confusion and just the emotional drain of this moment. And on behalf of the more junior attorneys who are doing the litigation work for VAP and as well as our pro bono volunteers, I really want to help them last and pace themselves for what is going to be a marathon of legal work, not a sprint. There are 15,000 lawyers like me in the country and 2,000 ICE attorneys. There's more of us than them, and we can outlast them if we use our resources wisely, and that includes our emotional resources. So I would just encourage folks to start to think about communities of care, to sit and tolerate all of the pain that is coming our way from the deliberate uncertainty being cultivated, and know that we are going to be trying to restrict ourselves from devoting legal service time to things that are really more felt emergencies rather than legal emergencies where a legal intervention is possible and effective. And just we honor the incredible toll that this is taking on everyone. And we really thank you for your partnership in boosting our legal services work. And to that point, my last point for today is just a reminder to please consider when you're interacting with immigration legal workers or lawyers during this time to please take a pause and remember the maxim of comforting in and dumping out. Imagine there are concentric circles of impact. And when it comes to legal uncertainty, we're trying really hard to educate ourselves with the assistance of national partners so that we can communicate that information to our clients, inform our case strategy, exchange best practices with each other so that we're all keeping up with the state of the art. And we're really at the epicenter of the legal uncertainty piece around immigration lawyering. And it's a confusing and hard time, especially for people who are newer to the practice. And so this is not how law is meant to be practiced. Rule of law is supposed to be something that's pretty stable and changed slowly over time, not radical, endless changes. So know that that's how we're showing up to work every day. Everyone's already feeling pretty burnt out as the administration is intended. And so if you are encountering a legal worker, just consider if you want to ask them how they're doing, or you want to buy them a coffee, or you just want to pat them on the back, or just make a joke or whatever it is that you want to do, you can ask for their consent about whether talking about what's going on is okay. You can ask them how they're doing, and really with the intent to listen. But I would caution folks against asking people, legal workers, how they're doing, so that you have the opportunity to seek emotional labor for them, reassurance or legal advice or clarity. Most of the legal advice questions we're getting from folks are not, um, you know, it's really understandable and reasonable because it's being deliberately cultivated by the federal administration, but they're not the most legally urgent questions. And they're from people who have relationally, more access to status, stability, and resources than the folks who are most imminently at risk of removal, who we're really trying to focus our limited resources on. So consider, comfort in, dump out when you're interacting with legal workers. And, if you're going to ask them how they're doing, please do so with an intent to listen. We're tired out here, and many of us are doing this while being misgendered all day, every day, and it is horrifying. So that's what's up. That's the top 5 for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to us at vapvt.org/newsletters. Follow us on socials, and I'll see you on the streets. Thanks, folks.